Let's talk about spreadsheets. Now, nothing makes me more upset than seeing these books called For Dummies because, it's a little condescending to those of us who, want to learn but maybe don't know a lot yet. So, I actually have this lesson called Google Sheets for Intelligent Beginners. So let's talk about Google Sheets and spreadsheets in general. And a lot of what you might know from Microsoft Excel, you can use here. Or if you ever learn Google Sheets and want to use Microsoft Excel, they're so similar. And there are a lot of snobs out there who think that these might be a little bit different, but they're so similar. If you know one, you'll easily be able to work with the other one. So let's talk about this. Google Sheets for Intelligent Beginners. I have a link here on this page that will take you to this, but I'm also going to click on this link. And when you click on the link, you'll follow to a template. And if you would like to follow along with me as you're working, please click on the link and then click Use Template. And it's going to open up a Google Sheet for you. So down here at the bottom, you'll see 4 different sheets or 4 tabs. Our first page is data entry. Down here is functions, graphs, and formatting. And we'll go over each of these in turn. So let's go back to data entry. Now, whenever I talk about this with students, I always say, here's the thing. Data entry, it's usually an entry-level position. We don't really pay people to do the work of data entry. We don't pay them too much money, but boy, isn't it important. Because if we're taking data from somewhere and we're putting it into a spreadsheet, don't we want that data to be done right? I ask students, well, if your teacher is entering all of your grades, wouldn't you want the teacher to do it accurately? Don't you also want to get your grade back soon? So shouldn't this also be done fast? So I talk to students about how data entry needs to be done quickly, but also accurately as well, because any little inaccuracies really can throw off your numbers. So if you're learning this for yourself, if you're learning spreadsheets for the first time, or if you're working on this to teach students about how to use spreadsheets in the classroom, it's something important to talk about, this speed versus accuracy, speed and accuracy at the same time. I'm going to teach this lesson as if I were teaching it to students. Now, I know that you are educators, so I would ask for your patience in that. But I'm hoping that because I'm presenting this like a lesson, some of you might be able to use this to teach your students as well. We're in the data entry tab right here, but I always go over and talk about the layout of a Google Sheet. And if your students have used Google Docs before, you'll notice that it's very, very similar. We have our title right there. We've got the menu bar. A lot of these menus are the same as in Google Docs, but we have new ones like data. Below here, we have the toolbar, where a lot of these, again, look very similar to Google Docs, but we have new ones. We've got the $ and percent and decrease and increase decimal places. And again, more of this looks very similar to what we've used before. Across the top, I always ask my students, okay, what are these chunks called right here? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Looking for the answer that these are columns. Most students, or most classrooms, at least a few kids will know those are columns. Then I say, all right, smarties, what do you think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are these called? And most students know, oh, those are rows. But then I make it tougher. I say, all right, what are each of these little boxes called? Ah, that's where it gets them. These are called cells. And then I do a quick little battleship game. I said, all right, everyone click on cell A1. And everyone clicks there. I say, oh, isn't that interesting? You all knew that each cell has its own name. I say, all right, C7, B9, F12, G6. All right, we have a little game of kind of just finding the cells, because in my lesson I'll mention these cells over again. Now I start by asking students to fill in 2-digit numbers. And I tell them that by tapping a number, 2, 3, say, and then hitting the Enter key, now it automatically bumps me down into the next cell, and I can do a different 2-digit number. And all right, I've got a bunch of data right there. And that's pretty cool. So then I say, all right, well, what if I've got all this random messy data here and I wanted to organize it somehow? What if I wanted it to start with the lowest number, which is 12, and go to the highest number, which is 89? What do I do? Well, here's what you do. You do a little mouse over the column A, or the heading of column A right here, and you see a little ghosty drop-down caret shows up. I click on there, and here I have something that says sort sheet A to Z, or sort sheet Z to A. Now, this obviously is alphabetical order, but if you're working with numerical data, it also means lowest value to highest value, or, as in Z to A, highest value to lowest value. There's another way to do this. I can also highlight the column and go into, boy, where is it? Right there, data, sort sheet, column A to Z, sort range. So I can also go in through my menu bar as well. This is how I usually do it. So then I say, all right, let's sort that sheet A to Z. Watch what happens. It's great. Oh, wait a second. That didn't really happen the way I wanted it. Yes, it did sort my sheet lowest number to highest number, but it also took my heading and put it down at the bottom. I don't want my heading down at the bottom. So how do we fix that? Well, this is an opportunity for me to teach undo. Most people would click on this little icon right there, but I always hit Control Z or Command Z on a Mac. And that's how I fix my mistakes. Control Z, undo. Anytime you make a mistake in Google Docs or Google Sheets or Google Slides or whatever, don't be afraid to undo. Control Z. So how do I do this then? If I really need to sort my data, but I don't want my heading to be sorted as well, here's what I do. I go into View, the View menu, freeze one row. Basically what I'm saying is I want that first row to be frozen, not sorted with everything else. So I'm going to click freeze, one row, and you'll notice that a little gray line shows up right below that. That's how I know that this top row is frozen. At this point, I could use my little Mickey Mouse hand and I can bring that gray bar down. I could freeze 2 rows or 3 rows or 4 if I wanted to, but I'm just going to keep this frozen in the first row. So now when I sort my data, little drop down caret, sort sheet A to Z, beautiful. Starts with all of my lowest values, going up to my highest value. Now you'll notice that it also rearranged all of my other rows as well. Well, that's important because rows always stick together. Because what if I had student names here and their lunch preference, hot dog, hamburger, Cheetos, whatever, and then I sorted one column, wouldn't you want your lunch preference to go with your name? Of course you would. So rows always stick together. So we just had numerical data right here, and we have, in this next column, we've got text data. So I'm going to type the word Mickey, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to type the word Minnie. I'm going to type the word Donald, and I'm going to type the word Goofy, and I'm going to enter, just type the letter D. Watch what happens. It guesses, because I've already typed a D, it knows I want to type Donald. I hit enter. Notice it also capitalizes that D. I tap the letter G, gives me Goofy. Now if I tap M, well, it doesn't do anything because there are 2 M's. So if I hit MI, still nothing. But now I type Min, now it knows I want Minnie. Or MIC, now it knows I want Mickey and Donald and Goofy. Now the nice thing about this, imagine you have a bunch of students with different teachers. What you can do is sort this data, and all of the teachers who have Mrs. Donald stick together, and all the teachers who have Mr. Goofy now are all grouped together. That's kind of nice. Now another great thing in Google Sheets, because it's more of a complex program, it also has a lot of helping hands, a lot of little tools that help you be just that more efficient. One of those is finding patterns. So if I type the word Donald right here, and I click out, and I click back on there, do you see this little blue handle that shows up right there? When I click on that and drag it down, oh, nice. It's almost like a copy and paste feature. Well, that's pretty cool. So if you don't want to keep typing the same word over again, you can kind of click and pull down just for a few cells or for an entire column. Pretty nice, especially if you're adding or if you're inserting a lot of, hey, everybody in class got the 5 bonus points. Pull it down and everybody gets the 5. I'm going to hit Control Z and delete that for now. And I want to show you can also do this with numbers. So if I have the number 1, I can pull down and it fills everything with 1. But if I have 1, enter, 2, enter, now I've got a bit of a pattern here, right? 1 plus 1. I'm going to highlight both of these cells by clicking and dragging on both cells. Now when I pull down, watch this magic. Oh, this is going to blow your mind. I pull down. Boy, that was pretty cool. It found a pattern in there. All right, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say 2, enter, 4, enter. Now I highlight both of those cells. I pull down on the little handle. You know what's coming. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Pretty cool. And it will find other patterns as well. For example, if I click on Monday right here in column D, row 2, cell D2, if I click and pull down, watch what happens. Oh, it's so cool. All right, what if I delete this and I type MON? What do you think will happen? It's smart enough. Mun to wed through fry. So cool. The date. If I have a date there, all I have to do is click and pull down, and it adds a day on. Oh boy, this is great. And I tell students, hey, we're not doing this because we're lazy. We're doing this because we're efficient. Spreadsheets are about so much more than entering data. We've got a lot more to do with this stuff. So if we can make data entry easier on us, well, we're going to take advantage of all of those efficiencies. Same thing goes for April. Pretty great. Check it out. Click, pull down on that little handle. So nice. So nice. Now, let's look at column G. Column G, I have titled here as money. Before we actually click on that $sign, which I'll show you, notice that all of these have many, many decimal places here. Well, to do this, I maybe don't want all of these decimal places, so I'm just going to highlight this whole column. And I'm going to come over here to my toolbar, and with the 0.0 and the 0.00, click on this icon that says decrease decimal places, and watch what happens. Click, 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 click. Now I'm going to increase again because I want you to see this again in slow motion, and I'll describe what we were seeing. Now I'm increasing my decimal places. Now notice, all of these will round up as I'm decreasing decimal places. So that one that said, this one, 345.4657568. Notice how it is rounding up every single time. It's rounding up. But wait, 345.47? Well, because that's less than 0.5, it's going to round down at that point and keep me at 345. All right. I'm going to increase my decimal places back again, and let's show us this money. You click on the $sign, and bing, turns everything into money. Pretty great, right? All right. Well, that's part 1 of Google Sheets for intelligent beginners. If you think you can do it, if you want to try again, try this a little bit more, keep playing with this on your own, or click on the next video to learn a little bit more about functions. This is where the magic really happens.